answer, but it just
No,
sort of
it's great.
explains
No, no,
some
no.
of the
I
background.
love I love detail. So it's you know, I'm happy happy listening. Amazing. Apologies there. I was trying to see if I might be able to wrangle this into line while you were sharing your story, and I've inadvertently probably made it worse. You're now
Don't worry
smaller,
about it,
but
mate.
anyway, I
I'm sure
think
your
people will
viewers won't
understand
care
what's
too much.
going on. We are live here, people, so this is why we have this. And g'day, Joe. I can see Joe Nusafira, who's joined us and said hello. He's a mate of mine. So I hope you didn't take offence to the thumbnail that I decided to run with. I'm still learning my way around social media, and I've been told, yeah, less is more. So I tried to use a few words just to capture people's attention, and I think it might be a little bit of a throwback to that terrible song, "My Milkshakes Bring All the Boys to the Yard," or "My Milkshakes Are Better Than Yours," but which I think has been permutated and mutated by many other players. So I'm not the sole person. I learnt today. There've been all sorts of people who made merchandise of my something's bigger than yours, and this and that's bigger than yours. Um, and I just thought, you know what, like I own my own nerd. I used to say inner nerd, but I've realised it's probably more just all round nerd. And I'm a bit of a tech nerd when it comes to the film sort of side of things. And I love movies, and I've always loved figurines and games and that sort of thing. I've got a friend, Duncan, who will probably be watching this at some stage or could be watching now, and uh, he's kind of like he's a really good um, like test sample, if you will, or a case study into what could happen if you're a male guy who's single and has a reasonably large amount of disposable income. So he's got, like, always has the latest PlayStation and Xbox games and movies. He's a massive Star Wars fan, and he got into
Cool.
like the higher end collectibles, like the hot toys and those sorts of things. $500-600. So it's maybe twelve hundred
They do
pounds. I'm
some
just
beautiful
doing it.
stuff, Hot Tools.
Yeah,
That's lovely to
amazing,
hear.
amazing detail. And he's got cabinets full of all of these figurines, and he always sends me these photos, and up until I really got into doing this, I really wasn't on top of all the different things that he'd be like, oh, did you see the latest this and that? And I'm like, mate, no, I'm married with children. Like I really I don't see much at all. But I've been trying to talk him into coming to onto one of these shows because I think it's really interesting. He's a funny character, and like he's got a collection. But I mean, like you take his room or so full of stuff and just bash that completely right out of the park.
Well,
yeah,
it's not necessarily a competition, is it? At the end of the day, I mean, I think everybody's loving the sort of the passion. And as I said to you when we first started the interview, this for me, this was all about a passion and a hobby that just went out of control. And it sounds like it's possibly going out of control for him as well. And that's where you have to have some sort of degree, some parameters around the scope of what you want to do with your collecting. And I think for me, it was exactly that. It was exactly as you're talking about your friend there. I was just buying more and loving it and excited by it. And, so much of what I do, perhaps less of today, which is disappointing to me because it's so much about compliance, regulations, administration that I'm dealing with and staff and human resources and the likes. But I love the chase. I love the hunt. I love the latest thing that I find. And I'm sure it's the very same thing for your friend there. And I think that was really part of, the real engagement for me was just that if I could, go through that winning cycle of finding something that nobody knew existed, tracking something down, and then you get that sort of euphoria of the success of finding it. and then you keep it for a little while, you treasure it, and then you give somebody else that same pleasure, and that gives me the ability, the finance, if you like, to go out and buy the next thing, find the next thing. And so you just get looped into this cycle. It's, you know, the adrenaline that comes with it, the endorphins that come with it, and it's, you know, it's very, very addictive. And I think that's what collecting is, isn't it? Ultimately, collecting is highly addictive, and you know, you get that rush when Hot Toys make their latest announcement about the next best thing that's coming out. It's very, very comparable.
Yeah. So it's one of the questions I have on the list here is how you find the items that you find, because I'm notoriously bad probably for doing double banger questions, but it sort of goes hand in hand with another one of my questions, which is you know, or almost more of a statement, in that I imagine you must meet some really interesting characters, because you know the realm that you guys are playing in, where you are looking at items that are often 10,000, 100,000, maybe even a few $100,000. It's not the kind of space that everybody can operate in. So, you know, how do you find these people? I guess the people who are going to sell product to you may often end up being customers as well, I imagine.
Sure. Well, I mean, let's, you know, first of all, let's make it clear. My philosophy, because of my grounding as having come from a collecting, you know, perspective, is very much that prop store should always have the ability to offer material to collectors at all levels. So yes, you're absolutely right. You know, a lot of interviews that I do want to talk about the, you know, Indiana Jones fedora hat that we sold for £400,000 or something like that. But actually, if you go onto our website at propstore.com, you'll find, I think there's about 7,000 items live at Buy It Now. So we do Buy It Now as well as auctions. And, you know, you'll find items on there from 10 or 15 pounds and upwards. So it could be a unit list, a call sheet, a script, a crew jacket, a crew patch, a crew hat. And then you sort of move into the background items as well. So, you know, I appreciate what you're saying about it all being sort of that sort of work realm that not everybody mixes in, but actually we sell to a lot of kids who are, you know, in their late teens, early 20s, who just want to get into the hobby as well, and will spend the same amount with us as they would have on a collectible toy. So I digressed a little bit there. So let's talk about where this stuff comes from. And I know this is a question that I get asked a lot, because it is sort of like a dark art to find this material. And essentially, some of this has been through luck and timing. When I started Prop Store, it was really before anybody else was taking this material seriously. I used to go and see crew members, I used to go and see effects houses, I used to go and see prop rental houses, and they thought I was absolutely bonkers wanting to give them money for this stuff, because for them it was all a byproduct of the filmmaking process. You know, for them this was just essentially something they created to get on screen. No expectation of a lifetime above and beyond that use in the film, and then it would just be disposed of. And so, you know, it was about me getting in before anybody else was really seriously considering this. Right back when I first started collecting, it was beyond me why an Eric Clapton guitar or something similar could sell for $1 million, and why Darth Vader's helmet from Star Wars might only be worth, at that particular juncture, maybe $10,000 or £10,000 or something similar. And to me, there was such a disparity, because ultimately, from my perspective, these were culturally and historically significant artifacts that should be cherished and revered and preserved in the same way as an Eric Clapton guitar. And so, you know, it was really about that journey of discovery with, and sort of educating people that things that they had buried away in their lofts and attics, that they had bought at the end of production, that they'd been gifted by the production, that were just in rental houses, actually had a value. And when I first started Prop Store, and this phrase has been coined many times for many different industries and markets, but there was really a sort of a golden era of discovery, because I was there right at the forefront of it, doing something that nobody else really understood or really saw any future in. I created a model, a platform to be able to bring this to market. You needed to have that global exposure. Without the internet, it couldn't really be achieved. You know, there was every now and again, there was an annual auction at Bonhams or Christie's or Sotheby's or something like that, but they would normally have 10 film props mixed in with rock and pop and cinema posters or something like that. And so I was going knocking on doors and just saying, look, this stuff is worth money. Have you got something? You know, what films did you work on? And I just created this network, and I was paying people good money back then for things that they just had as mementos, really. And it grew and evolved from that. And so it was about timing. It was about maybe my vision of the value of this material in the future and where this could go. And then it was about sort of accessibility. And so, you know, being in the UK where a lot of really significant movies were filmed, you know, you've got all the Star Wars films, the Batman films, the Alien films, the James Bond films, etc., etc., etc. You know, some phenomenal film titles shot here. There was a lot of opportunity and potential for that material still to be with a producer who lived in London, or with a rental house that was, you know, East London or whatever it might be. And from there, it's grown and it's changed. You know, as essentially as I sort of exhausted all the rental houses, as they got fed up with me going around their places and going through their shelves trying to find the Star Wars knickknack that was used in the Millennium Falcon. It was then, okay, where's my supply chain next? I'm sorry, this is such a long answer, but
No, it's great. No. I love I love detail. So it's you know, I'm happy happy listening.
Cool. So, you know, from that point, it was like, okay, where's it coming from next? And it was that then I started flying out to Los Angeles and introducing myself to production companies and studios. I had meetings with Warner Brothers, with 20th Century Fox, with Universal Studios, with Sony, and basically trying to open their eyes to it, because at that time they weren't doing anything with these assets. You know, they would keep some for archive, they'd use it a little bit for marketing and publicity, and then they would dispose of the rest. And the reason why I was having to fly out there was because even for productions that were filmed in the UK and Europe, quite often, because they're financed out of the US, the assets would actually be shipped back over to LA. And so I started knocking on the doors there. I did some great deals with 20th Century Fox, Universal, Warner Bros. Back in that during that era, the early 2000s. And this was actually one of the catalysts for starting Prop Store LA, because I'd fly out to LA, and I remember I bought, I don't know if you've ever seen The Chronicles of Riddick with Vin Diesel. I bought that film title from Universal Studios, and when they made that film, it was a film that was going to be a trilogy, and it performed so badly at the box office, unfortunately, that they canned that idea. But they had made all the production assets as if they were going to go to a trilogy. So I did this deal with Universal Studios, and I shipped back 4 40-foot shipping containers from Los Angeles to the UK, and subsequently broke those all down, broke them all out. We still have some of that material on our website today. So that's some 16 years later. And then, of course, I was shipping a lot of it back to US buyers. So that's again, just digressing a little bit, but that was one of the reasons why I had to start to cut down the footprint on, you know, the element of just shipping and freight costs, and really from a perspective of the environment as well. And so that was then morphing into studio relationships and opening their eyes with you know, the potential value, the intrinsic value of these assets and these artifacts. And that's really dynamically changed the way that assets are managed today for films. And I'm not saying I'm personally responsible for this, but I'm just saying, because I sort of pushed this message so hard. You know, I was going to memorabilia shows, we were exhibiting. I've been going to San Diego Comic-Con for over 14 years now. I've been doing this sort of publicity and promotion, interviews, magazines, advertising. As the demand has grown and people have realized that there's value to this, the production company is like, okay, hang on a second, maybe this stuff shouldn't be going back to the rental house. Maybe this stuff shouldn't be sold at the end of production to crew members. And we need to ring fence it, and we need to manage it actually as a valuable asset in its own right. So today, it's more about our partnerships with studios. So we've just, on propstore.com, just a couple of days ago, we completed another project for Marvel. So we partnered with Marvel for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We've undertaken a number of auctions for Marvel. We work with Legendary, Lionsgate, as I say, some of the other big studios as well, where we're actually bringing the whole film title to market through our online auctions as a single production auction. And so That's now become another supply chain to us, and there was no alternative other than to do that. You have to work hand in hand with the studios. But what's really interesting now, today, 20 years, 22 years after I started the company, is that some of the collectors I sold to back in the day, 22 years ago, they've got things that they bought from me for hundreds of pounds, which are now worth tens of thousands of pounds because the values have just gone like this and continue to do so. And so, we're actually seeing that sort of recycling of material within our market, which is comparable to, art, antiquities, cinema posters, rock and pop. It's grown to that extent now. There's that much more material that's actually in private hands too.